Environment. It's important to all of us. But not everyone behaves as if they care about the environment. An actual problem presented all over in the media. In order to save the environment, we all have to make small changes in our lives that can go from shower a few minutes less, taking the bike to work, or of course, think twice before you do your laundry that's still clean. Many researchers have tried to come up with a solution to this problem. But how do you do this? How do you make people behave in a way that you want them to? The answer is actually quite simple and might be already on the top of your tongue. That's right, social norms. That's why Goldstein et al. Tried to contribute with an investigation. They tried to motivate hotel guests to reuse their towels in order to save more water and energy. That's how they came to this article, A Room with a Viewpoint, using social norms to motivate environmental conservation in hotels. So, social norms. What are they and how can we use them? First of all, there's two kinds of norms. The first one is descriptive norms. This is the way people behave in a certain situation. Most people behave in a certain situation. For example, when you walk into a bar and you see everyone drinking alcohol, you are also most likely to order an alcoholic drink as well. The second one is injunctive norms. Injunctive norms describe how most people should behave in a certain situation. This one lies closest to learned behavior. For example, is learned that one should not lie or steal. This article focused most on the first one, descriptive norms. What did Goldstein et al. Do? The researchers tried to investigate whether hotel guests were willing to participate in an environmental conservation program. They collected the data in a mid-sized, mid-priced hotel in the southwest of the US. The hotel was part of a big national chain. The guests of the hotel were unaware of participating in the experiment. The hotel's room attendants were instructed to collect the participation data. The scientific method. Goldstein et al. Used different kinds of messages with either descriptive or non-descriptive norms in order to see if people were willing to participate in the towel reuse program. The expectations were that the messages using descriptive norms would have a positive effect of the reuse of the towels. In order to do this, they used two experiments. So, experiment 1. Experiment 1 had two conditions, two messages. Message 1. It was a standard environmental message, which asked the hotel guests if they wanted to reuse their towels in order to save the environment. Message 2, however, used the descriptive norm. It said, join your fellow guests in helping to save the environment. As the results showed, is that the reusage rate of the towels in message 1 was 35.1%. So 35.1% of the people reused their towels. Message 2, however, it was 44.1%. So this is a difference of 9% already. So here it's getting interesting.
Very interesting indeed. They found that using a descriptive norm in your message had a bigger effect on the display of wanted behavior. The wanted behavior was in this case the leaving of the towels on the towel rack in order to reuse them. Whereas this was a good result and an increase of 9%, the researchers wanted to know what kind of descriptive norms would have the biggest effect. That's how they came to the following experiment.
Experiment 2. Experiment 2 had 5 conditions in which they used more descriptive messages. Message 1 was actually the same as in experiment 1. It was the standard environmental message, which said, "Help save the environment." Message 2 was the guest identity descriptive norm message, what said, "Join your fellow guests in helping to save the environment." This condition was also the same as in experiment 1. The third message was the same room identity descriptive norm message, which is almost the same as in the second message, but here it said that the guests that were exactly in the same room as the guests were now also reused their towels. It said 75% of the guests staying in this specific room also reused their towels. The fourth one was the citizen identity descriptive norm message. And here it said, "Join your fellow citizens in helping these to save the environment." And the fifth and final message was the gender identity descriptive norm message, which said, "Join the men and women who are helping to save the environment." So here they put emphasis on the gender identity.
Because they couldn't ask the actual participants additional questions about the specific manipulations, they asked a separate group of participants. They did this to check whether the messages activated in the intended social identities related to the relevant social category. This seemed to be the case. No significant differences were found in the extent to which each of the messages made participants think of their social identity as it related to the relevant social category. This finding supports the assertion that the operationalizations of each of the conditions were equally effective. Where they did expect to see a noticeable difference, however, was in the participants' ratings of the importance of the various social categories to their own social identity. And so they did. What you can see here is that the gender identity was considered most important by the participants, and that the same room identity was considered least important. Well, this is the actual graph from the article. We don't exactly know why they changed the sequence, but they did. So we numbered them again for you. Take a look at it and we'll say something useful about it later.
Here we put all the messages together to give you kind of an overview of the results that were found in experiment 2. So in the first message, we can see that 37.2% of the people actually reused their towels. So we can say that they participated in the towel reuse program. In message 2, that was already 44.2%. Then we go to message 3, where it was 49.3%, which is even higher. Then we go to message 4, which was 43.5%, and then last but not least, 40.9% for message 5. Okay, so before we leave experiment 2, I really want to emphasize on the actual norm that is written in message 3, which is the provincial norm. And the provincial norm says something about the circumstances where someone is in. So it's really a situational factor. So that having been said, we're going to continue to the next slide.
Here we can see the results in a graphical form. And what is noticeable if we compare it to the first graph is that the same room identity that was considered to be least important resulted in the highest reuse rate. What was found in this research was that the towel reuse rates of the 4 descriptive normative message identities did not map onto the extent to which individuals consider those identities personally meaningful and important to them. So how important you find the identity that is described is not important to the likeliness of you actually following that descriptive norm. These data are particularly interesting in light of the research suggesting that the more important a social category is to an individual's social identity, the more likely he or she will be to follow the norms of that category. That is, much of the extant literature suggests that the participants' conservation behavior should map onto the importance ratings. According to the importance ratings, participants should have been most likely to follow the norms of citizens or males and females, and least likely to conform to the norms of the hotel guest of the particular room in which the participants were staying. Yet, the data indicate that, in fact, it's almost the opposite.
What can we conclude from all this? What were our conclusions? We set out 3 points for you. The first one is that the experiment showed that descriptive norms actually work. They make people behave in pro-social behavior and take action. So descriptive norms work. That's positive. The second one is that the provincial norm, as I just explained to you with the situational factor, is most effective. So when handling descriptive norms, use a situational factor. And then the last one was that all descriptive norms had a positive effect on the social behavior and the reuse rate of towels. That's good news. The discussion points we used in our experiment was actually that the towel reusage rates we saw in the results might be an underestimation of the real towel reusage rates. And this is due to the fact that only the towels that were on the rack or on the curtain rod were taken into account, and those that were on the floor, that were on the bed, or that were on the doorknob were taken into account as to be cleaned or refreshed. So
the hotel guests might have unintendedly had their towels cleaned because they did not understand that they actually had to hang their towel on the rack or the rod in order to reuse them. If the researchers would have also counted the other towels as to be reused, the result could have been much higher.
Secondly, the environmental factors turned out to be the most important ones in this study. So this has to be taken into account when doing future research. The implications of this study are as follows. If the hotels started to use their descriptive norms in the hotel setting, we could save the environment step by step. And of course, you as an individual could also contribute.